Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Hello, everyone.
We are today live 1 hour later because
Thank you.
we accommodated Lisa busy schedule because of her flight. So thanks very much for that. If you can be so kind, because we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you can ping us if you can put in comments that you can hear us and see us, I will check also on my phone whether LinkedIn is working properly. I think it is.
Good. And as you do that, I'll say greetings to everyone from Dusseldorf in Germany. I was telling Jan before we get in, I always get to go to like the least exotic locations.
We are live here
Oh,
also
good,
on
good, good.
LinkedIn. It looks like, yeah, we have Mika, Veronica, yeah, Tomasz. Okay,
Great.
perfect.
So
It's
glad to see
taking
you all.
always a little bit, time before I understand that, it's like couple of, seconds before you write, and it's taking a couple of seconds, so we see it here. All right. Why high achievers are high hope people? And to be honest, we had a very interesting discussion be- before live because Lisa asked me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I was always saying hope is not a strategy, but I know what is meant in this particular case by hope. For example, in Czech, I'm Czech origin, hope is something which is kind of the neutral. While if you take like business English, or at least, business people, they think that the hope is kind of the soft, nice thing, but it's not real, right? So it would be good if you can kick off the team, and I have a lot of notes already here.
You have done such a nice job, Jan, because every time I say to people, hey, let's really focus on your hope, they're like, oh, no, forget it. It's the worst. And we have all these myths around hope and what it is and why we actually don't cultivate it in business and sports. And that is why the topic here today is, hey, look, this is the skill you didn't even know you needed and you're missing out on. And by the way, if you can cultivate hope and nobody else knows about this super secret skill, you're going to get much farther ahead than everyone else. But most important for us as we talk about this subject today, as everyone joins, please know hope, as we mean it in this context, we do not mean like, oh, thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope things will get better for you. Hope is not a passive word. Hope doesn't mean I sit back and I let something maybe happen or maybe not. Hope is actually a verb. And it's just the opposite of being passive. It's actually being active. And what hope means is when things are going wrong and things are really bad, you believe I can take action to make this better. So it's actually quite different from optimism. So many people say, oh, I really want to be, positive psychology. I want to be positive. I want to be optimistic. But here's the thing. Optimism is actually like, yeah, I just I think everything will be okay. And that is when we say, I just trust that it can be okay and I don't have to take any action. That's where people get mixed up between optimism and hope. Hope means you take the action. And this is the differentiator in business when you believe the future can be better. That's good. And I can take an action that's going to create that better. So you have the personal agency within you, you have the belief. Now, you don't necessarily know what that next step is yet, but part of living hope and being with hope is being able to make that plan. So I hope everybody can understand here today, haha, very good pun. I hope you can understand that using hope means I know a better future's out there and I'm going to go out there and activate it myself. And we are going to give you tips today on exactly how to do that, how to show up even when things are hard. Super important to say about hope. And I'm going to keep going, Jan, but then I'll let you speak, I promise.
No problem. Go ahead.
So
No problem.
important about hope, which is
And apology,
misunderstood.
guys. I have those, blue light blocking glasses, but it's 9 o'clock, and I wear it
It's
simply
our
whenever I'm in front of the
bedtime.
screen. When it's 9 o'clock, it's like religion for me. So
You're so good. If we're on the apologies bandwagon, I should apologize for my very bad lighting in a hotel room. But really important for hope is understanding hope does not exist unless we have something bad or hard happening. So many of us think, oh, wouldn't life be so much easier if bad things didn't happen, if things were smooth, if there wasn't this mess, if COVID didn't happen, if there wasn't a recession, if none of this bad stuff happened. But actually, hope can only exist when you're facing an obstacle. So actually, you cannot go as high to your highest capacity if you don't have obstacles that you have to rise up against. So hope is also the best way for you to say, okay, challenges, bring them on, because this is what's going to get me to rise up. And like I said at the beginning, if you can cultivate your hope muscle, you will go much farther, much faster than anyone else. With that, I'm going to send it over to you, Jan, because you're a little skeptical about hope.
I was. but, you know, when we explain to each other what we really mean, I'm absolutely fine with it. Interestingly enough, I will start with a story, as always. I'm on my feet. You know, I was coaching today, the whole day, Czech national coaches for cycling team, like getting them ready for the Olympic Games or whatever, the coaches. But I started at 6 o'clock at a TV station called Nova. It's the biggest private TV station. And I was there with my tennis player, Rile Hecka. He played, you know, he was in the quarterfinal at the Australian Open. Big, you know, success. He's really jump on the, he beat a couple of, you know, top 10 players. And I was asked, you know, some question about mental toughness. And I said, well, interesting thing with the mental toughness is following. If the things are going very well, what you said, if there are like no obstacles, you don't need to take care of your, you know, brain. Those hormones like endorphin, dopamine are released automatically because you are here and now, you are in the flow. The thing is, and that's the paradox, you need to encourage yourself. If the things are not going very well, that's the time when you really need to encourage yourself to create all of those, you know, hormones by your behavior, by your thinking, and so on. You mentioned optimism. I think it's also about belief. It is about, you know, hope. And the good thing, how to, if you have like your day D, it can be Olympic Games, it can be presentation, it can be very important meeting in front of you, whatever, you know, right? There is something called priming. Priming is basically mixing your hormonal cocktail in the way so you feel good and you believe in your skills and you have a hope, you know, right? I give you example from tennis, or what for example Nadal mentioned, or, you know, Djokovic mentioned. If they are playing with somebody and that somebody is playing really, really very well, they have a lot of hope that the guy will not be able to play like that all the time. They have a hope that there will be some chance. And now it's, you know, you need to take the chance and play, you know, well and change. That's why they are like losing 2-0 in, you know, Grand Slam and they are still winning. This is because they hope that it will, you know, change. I think the hope is like the base. You need still to do a lot of other things, you know, but unless you hope, you know, my experience with the hope is following. As you may know from the previous, you know, lives, 11 years ago, I went through deep depression, 6 months, 3 months in the mental hospital. The problem with depression is following, and the reason why people are sometimes committing suicide is the fact that you are losing your hope. You are losing, you know, your hope, hoping that the thing will change. If you break your leg, you know, the hope is that in 2 months it's going to be fine, right? But the issue with, you know, depression is that your logical part of the brain is switched off and your amygdala is like looking only for bad things or what is going around you. And it's like streaming, you know, negativity. And that's the reason why people, and it is interesting, amygdala, you know, first function and mostly the only function is survival, but it is amygdala which is pushing people to commit suicide. That's really, it is like that, because your logical part of the brain is switched off, and then all negativity is there, and people are losing hope, and that's the bad thing. And obviously antidepressants, they need to change it, but I switch it. But back to the priming. There are a couple of techniques. Priming will enable you to create the right hormonal cocktail in your brain to be ready and to really enter the scene, whatever is the scene. It can be your job, it can be some sport or whatever. Couple of things what you can do. Number one, in the morning, you can do what they call act of gratitude. Take 3 things you are grateful for. Okay, kind of the long-term things. It can be, hey, I'm healthy. I'm happy. I have a great relationship. I have a great family. Whatever, right? What do you achieve? That's number one. Number two, you can take a couple of things which you learn. Right? Even like your mistakes. What do you learn from that? And number three, you basically visualize what the success looks like that particular day. And what it means, the mix of endorphin and dopamine is released, and you feel good, and you are looking forward, right? And I think this is really, this priming is important to whenever I was in front of the Bill Gates in the morning, I was like running, I had I always wore the shirt, Ralph Lauren, because and some particular, trousers, whatever, that's the part of the ritual, right? But you feel those were like clothes. I was, really feeling good, because it's about, feeling good. Today, I was having a coaching session with Jiří Lehečka after we were in the TV, and I said, from now on, you are center of the gravity, nobody else. It's about you. We want you to be top 10. So it's about you. You need to concentrate on yourself. Whatever the other people are saying, it's about you. Okay? Because to be honest, if you study top 10, they are always self-centric. That's why they are champions, right? And it's not that they behave in a bad way, no. But they need to, like sleeping, food, whatever, all of those things. So that's number one, that priming. And that number two, of those tools, I would say it's that you need to train your perception. I explain what I mean. Okay, because the things as they are happening, they have no meaning. The meaning is created by your brain. You are putting some sticker on a different events. Okay, they did, I probably mentioned it here already. They did interesting study with US Navy. A couple of soldiers, the same situation, one group of soldiers and the other group of the soldiers. The first group was told this situation is a threat. Okay, the other group was told this situation is a challenge. What happened? The first group performance went down, and cortisol was released when they measured them, their hormones. And the other group, that performance went up, and testosterone was released by the. So it is very often only wording, because the words are having some meanings, or even some picture is creating in our mind. So you need to be very careful what kind of the wording you are using, and what kind of the you putting, because you can be really in a very difficult situation, and you can say, hey, I need to give up, this is like nonsense, makes no there's no hope. Or you can say, well, it's very difficult, and it's challenging, but I will do my best in that situation. It's a very different signal for your brain, and that's the same with your body. We're talking about it. If you go like your head goes down, your shoulders goes down, that's basically from the history. This is like giving up, and cortisol is released. If you even in a difficult situation, you stay still, straight, okay, and you breathe absolutely, then your testosterone goes up by 20%, cortisol goes down by 25%, and your ability to do something goes up by 1/3. Okay, so because this is it. You can even though it's a difficult situation, you can in your brain you can still feel like, hey, I'm gonna to change this situation, right? So those are a couple of things you can use. But for me, really, hope is necessary, but obviously not sufficient to talk mathematically, right? Because you need to have hope is a base. If you don't have a hope, forget it, right? You need to have a hope, but then you really need to build on that. right? And the other important thing, which what Lisa mentioned, right? I'm always saying that elevator will not get you to the success. You go by stairs, to the success. Yeah, because our brain really works like we learn something new, and it's called homeostasis, because our brain likes stability. For some time, we are okay, we learn something new, and we need to build new synapses or whatever. And then again, we learn something new, and we go like that, stair by stair. It does not go like rocket. It's simply impossible. We need to be. That's why people need to be patient. The patience is another great thing which you need to have, really.
Yes. And yet, I want to invite anyone who's listening now, by the way, if you are feeling stuck, if you're feeling like, I really don't know how to get out of this current situation I'm in, shoot a note into the chat box and we can give you a little bit of coaching on how to make this a hopeful situation. Because most important, and Jan, you said it so nicely, which is when I think about hope, I don't think about, oh, I hope things will be okay, I'll be passive. It actually activates the power within me. I find my power because it's like, no matter what situation is coming up, and it's hard, don't get me wrong, lots of hard things happen to us, all of us, right? The thing is, what I tell myself, I always have a mantra or something that like pumps me up a little bit, like Nike, just do it. But I'm like, ooh, this is hard, but I can do hard things, right? And I want all of you to also, like, when things are hard, you carry on your hope and you go like, but we can do hard things. Let's do this. How do we tackle this? How do we move this? How do we go on from this? And it is exactly that, like, feeling powerful that makes the difference. The exact opposite of hope is being a victim. And being the victim is simply thinking, what can I do? Things are happening to me. They're out of my control. I can't influence it. I can't do anything. I just have to take it. And I'll just hope things are better. No. I really want you to start rethinking about how you use the word hope. Because as Jan said, hope, when you think of it as a passive thing, it's not a strategy. You can't just hope things are different. You actually have to do something to make them different. And so that is what's really important when you really live hope, when you really embody hope and you're a high hope person. It means you activate that power. You feel you can influence. You feel you can have, control over something. And then you jump into the situation. This all sounds really good in theory. All of you are probably nodding along at home going, yes, yes, makes perfect sense. And then I promise, based on all the people Jan and I coach, we know you'll go back to your regular life and you'll sit there and you'll complain. Can you believe my boss said this? Can you believe the workload is this? Can you believe that team over there did this? Can you believe my competitor is doing this? And you start to feel like a victim. So we want to give you some tools and tips to, even when you're not even noticing that you're feeling stuck, how to activate yourself out. One of the things Jan said, which was so good, is you can even watch your body language as clues for how you're feeling. If your shoulders are slumped and you're feeling like, ugh, that's probably a sign you think things are happening to you. So square those shoulders. If you want, you can do the power pose. I don't know if you can see like Amy Cuddy. You can get your testosterone up. And I really want you to think, and it's a very easy question you can have in your mind to go from passive victim, things are happening to me, to becoming a high hope person. And it's very simple. You write it down, you keep it on a sticky note in front of you at all times. What is the opportunity here? That's it. Because the thing about hope is that it lives in the future. I know the future can be better. And so you have to be able to activate this part of your brain that believes in the future. As Jan just rightly said, the amygdala in the back is all those emotions, those fears, those doubts, those no's. And you got to get past that part, that bodyguard, and get to the part that says, what if? What's possible? And always start with that open mindset that there's hope that you can transform something into the future.
Exactly. And I will, connect what Lisa said with, change management, right? Because everybody's saying it's important to change and be able to absorb change, whatever. But as a matter of the fact, our brain hates change. Okay.
Yes.
Brain is very effective and efficient, tool, and brain likes stability, does not like change. Okay. And if you think about hope and change, people will change only if it's painful or if there is a lot of pleasure associated with a new situation. And the best thing is to combine both of those. And if you think about the hope is okay. I hope that the things will get, better, and I will feel, better. I will have better results, whatever. But I need to admit that on the way there will be a lot of pain because I need to move out of my comfort zone. It will be painful, not necessarily like physically painful, but maybe mentally I would need to learn a new language or new skills and etc. Right? This is it. Right? I talking to those coaches today, I said because they were like, oh yeah, so many things. I said, but guys, I don't think I'm more intelligent than you are. The only difference is that I learned very early in my childhood English. So right, I can learn thanks to that. I can learn from the best people. That's
Yeah.
this is the only one difference. Learn English, and then you can learn a lot of things today from YouTube. Read the good books and so. So and again, it's taking some efforts, and you need to move. I'm just using the the English as a example. You need to move out of your comfort zone. This is it. But once you start to do it like that and be like curious, you will. I take like learning as necessity for me. I like it. I created my emotional connection to learning. I love it, right? I mean, I always now I created new course with the like on the mental health, and stuff like that. And you need to overcome this kind of it's not laziness necessarily, but it's like, hey, I know enough and I have enough. That's fine, right? But on the other hand, if you do what you like, it's easier to move out of your comfort zone than to read more. And plus, if you are able to really absorb, change, to be curious, then you can manage your emotions in much better way. Because everybody on this, call is a CMO, and I don't mean chief marketing officer. I mean chief mind officer, because you can manage your mind. The way you think, you can manage. A lot of you thinks that you are your thoughts. It's not like that. Your thoughts are absolutely randomly pushed by your subconsciousness. It's like
Yes.
90% of our thoughts are the same every day. It's like 60 to 70,000. And now, obviously, it is good to have healthy thoughts, and it's good to have thoughts which are helping you to move, not negative thoughts or whatever, right? And you can always, like, if you have whatever some negative emotion, you can be like fearful or some stress, whatever, you can stop and ask yourself, what was the trigger of my emotion? What was it's usually some thought. And that thought, many times it's absolutely nonsense, right? But your amygdala wants you to survive. That's why all thoughts, according to amygdala, are facts, and it's not true at all. Okay. When I coach, like football goalkeepers or ice hockey goalkeepers, they are like doing very good job, and suddenly they are getting the goal, and then the mind goes like, I got a goal, it's my mistake, and that's why my team is losing the whole match, which is like, true is that he got a goal, but then all other two other sentences are nonsense, right? So you really need to give your logical part of the brain chance to basically look at your thoughts. And when you will start to do it, they ask Iri, the tennis player, how comes that he make a breakthrough in Australia? And you know what he said? I started to look at my thoughts from like third person standpoint, right? And that's exactly, right? We are not our thoughts, really. Thoughts are thoughts, and some thoughts are facts, some thoughts are true, some thoughts are not true, and that's what you can distinguish. And when you will start to observe your mind, you can make a huge breakthrough also with your hope, right? because the problem, like, look, guys, I have like really deep clinical experience with depression. Unfortunately, if you are depressed, your logical part of the brain is switched off. Your amygdala thinks that all your thoughts, which are all negative, by the way, are true, and putting them together. And it's really like you try to sleep all the time because it's like impossible to survive, right? Because it's a lot of negative thoughts.
Yeah. And it's exactly that. The way that people have to really start to think is I need to look at my thoughts. And then once my thoughts will happen automatically unless I actually pause and stop them. And we can talk about how to create that pause. But once you stop them, my God, you have choice. And it's not what most people think is action, reaction. It's like my kids. You hit me, I hit you back. And then we figured out through psychology, oh, wait, there's a space between where you can control your thinking. And actually, I'm going to even go one step further. Before your thoughts come through, you actually feel an emotion. Your emotions can impact what your thinking is, which impacts what your action is. So if we really break it down and we say, okay, instead of action, reaction, it's something happens. What am I feeling? What do I want to be feeling? What do I want to be thinking? And that can change my behavior. So instead of, oh, I messed this goal up and now everyone hates me and I'm going to mess it up again and now the team's going to lose. And that's fear, amygdala talking. That's not your choice. When you hit pause, what do you want to feel? And Jan and I have told you this over and over. We know from the research, we know what works for the brain, and it's high hope. Thinking, what could I learn better? Okay, I did that. I can learn from that. Let me put that on pause for later. How do I come back here? How do I have hope that I can win this again for the rest of the team? How do I show up so that next goal isn't going to come in, right? So rather than being the victim of, oh, this thing happened, to what's within my control, how do I show up? How do I get better? How do I learn? How do I improve? How do I, make up for this? And it gives you back your energy, your ability to take on the situation.
Yeah, and then there is something I call positive snowball or negative snowball. Okay, I explain what I mean. Tomorrow there is a world championship in biathlon, and tomorrow there's a first competition. There was a Czech lady interviewed today. She is the youngest. She's for the first time there. But the whole talk was terrible from my standpoint because she said, like, I'm so afraid. It's for the first time I'm there. They gave me the chance, but I'm really, afraid, right? What will happen and stuff like that, right? And if you start like that, the chances are this is negative priming and it's very bad. And the chances are that, you will not perform very well. And then it goes like, oh, I'm not for the big events, right? On the other hand, well, everybody was, sometime doing first presentation or having, first sex or whatever, right? First relationship, whatever, right? So everything was for the first time, so we learn as we go. And it is much better, as you said, it is much better that mindset. Okay, I go there. I know it's like for the first time. I'm looking forward. And I will, I will try, I will do my best. I will have an optimal performance. I train a lot and I will learn also. And it's a great opportunity for me. That's much better, mindset and much better like internal talk, if you will, right? So it really depends what kind of the wording you have, because, the internal dialogue, the person is talking to you, mostly it's you. Even though you may be with your husband, with your wife, whatever. A lot of time it's not that person, it's you. That's why you need to be very careful what you are. I'm never using, maybe it's like genes, I don't know, but I'm never using like, hey, I'll not manage it, or I'm not strong enough. No, not at all. I'm not saying I screwed so many things in my life, right? I lost, right, and I was depressed, whatever. That's true, but it was not because of my loser mindset. It was rather, that I overlooked, some stuff and then I made mistake, or I was not having enough mental rest. That's because of the depression, but never because of that internal dialogue. And that internal dialogue is super important. But listen now, what I figure out, if you are thinking about yourself, I'm a shit, I'm a shitty performance, whatever, that's bad. But if you go and publicly will say, I'm loser, I'm not doing very well, whatever, it's 10 times, more dangerous for your brain as opposed to, your internal minds. I'm always like watching, for example, athletes, what they are saying during interviews, and especially during, press conference when they are losing. Okay. When they are winning, everybody, that was great. When they are losing, you have category Djokovic, Nadal, those guys, they are pissed off, absolutely, as everybody else, but they are saying, I lost. There were a couple of balls. My, opponent was, better, right? But I'm looking forward for next match and so on. He said it was a good match. And it's usually like that. A couple of balls are, really this decisive balls, right? And this is it. While the other guys are, oh, that's terrible. I was not playing, very well. My opponent was playing super well and so on. But you cannot in your life, you cannot influence other people. You cannot influence your, market competitors and stuff like that. You can influence only your behavior. That's what Stoics were, saying, take care of yourself. Okay. You cannot, today I was asked question. There was a gentleman who was, a personal trainer of Jaroslav Kulhav. Jaroslav did, in London, he won Olympic Games in mountain bike, and then in Rio was a second place. So he is a very successful coach, that guy. Okay. And he asked me, what would you recommend, athletes to say at a press conference before Olympic Games, match or Olympic Games race? Because there's a lot of pressure, right? Media are saying, hey, will you win or whatever? I say, it's easy. You need to go, what Stoics were saying, you need to say, I prepare as I could. I will, do my best. I really will play, or I will race as I can, because I did on great preparation. I will do my best. I'm not saying I will be, winner or whatever, right? That's how you, show even your brain, hey, there is some progress. I'm looking forward for the event, but you are not creating any pressure. Because if you will go there and you will say, I'm gonna to win, some people will do that, and will still win. But you are creating a lot of pressure. And there is something in psychology what they call FOPO, fear of other people's opinion. Because if you will say, I'm gonna to win Olympic Games, I bet you from that moment you will think I need to win Olympic Games because what will media say, my fans or whatever. And it's not necessarily good to create additional pressure. And that's the same thing like if you do some presentation or do some deals in terms of the business, right? You can always tell your boss, I will do my best. We prepare everything, boss, for this event or for this presentation for the customer, and that's what you should do. You cannot influence other people. I think I used that example a couple of times already, but I will use it also here. When there was a battle over, mobile phones, okay, Microsoft engineers were looking all the time what the Apple engineers were doing, okay, creating like the pressure on them.
Yeah.
While the Apple engineers, they were not giving a shit. They just built the best phone in the world at that time. I know this is it. This is kind of the fixed mindset. Yeah, right, with the Microsoft engineers. Microsoft did a lot of and is doing great job, but mobile technologies were not necessarily a good story for us. And I think it was driven by this mindset. We need to have the same thing like Apple and maybe be a little bit better, whatever. But Me Too products usually in business, it's a Me Too product, right? That's the and that was clear. So you need to be careful with that. And I definitely think what the Stoics were saying more than 2,000 years ago, you should concentrate on what you can, change. You need to, like, if you play poker, you play with the cards you have. You can't play with the cards you don't have, right? And sometimes, I tell you what, the last thing, and then I'll hand over to Lisa. Jiří Lehečka, after the Australian Open, they were playing over the weekend Davis Cup in Portugal. And because he is pretty good in kind of the hard, courts, If he plays on clay, it takes some time for Jiri to accommodate because it's slower. He plays really fast game, okay, fast match, okay. So, and on Saturday, Jiri play like, I think, on like 80% of his capacity, but he was still winning because I told him always, like, you need to win. If you play on 80%, you need to play on 80% and win what you have today. On Sunday, it was already 100%, so it was easier, even though the Sunday, player was stronger than Saturday. But it's like, sometimes when I was presenting to Bill Gates, I was having a cold, right? But if you like what you do and you are in the flow, endorphin is released, and you're like, whatever is your pain, in this case it was like pain from the cold, it's gone. So what, those 8 or 10 hours, it was gone. In the evening I was like dead, basically.
Dead, yeah, exactly.
You can do that, right, through really emotional connection to what you do. They very often, if you are injured, not seriously injured, or having some light cold or whatever, you can overcome that. Absolutely.
That's right. And it's so important what you're saying here about this winner's mindset. And winner's mindset doesn't mean I'm the best, I'm great. Like you said, it creates way too much pressure. And it's also actually probably the reason that this other woman was saying, "Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to do well or not," because she's also scared about other people's opinions. Guess what? We all are. Don't sell yourself short, but don't oversell yourself. Don't worry about how am I going to get this result. Here's the thing. When you're looking for judgment, did I do a good job? Did I do a bad job? Anytime you're going to use judgment words like that, you're going to go back into the fear zone. When you have a hope mindset, when you have a winner mindset, you say, okay, what's the tough challenge ahead? How do we move forward? How do we make the future better? How do we level up on excellence? How do we learn from here? Like the Stoics, how do we just work with what's within our control and not spend our time worrying about the judgment of others and worrying about, can I control the outcomes that I can't control, right? Hope is all about feeling like, where do I have control and where can I step in there?
No, okay.
And it's,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. I want people to understand how to actually cultivate hope. So when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling you're in that negative spiral, which it exactly is, I want you to almost imagine like a tornado that's just spiraling. So many people say, hey, but isn't venting a good thing? Doesn't that help me to like get my feelings out? Rarely, very rarely. For the most part, it just does damage. What I want you to do instead is when you're feeling upset, angry, annoyed, frustrated, notice it. I know I'm American. I do not want any of you to use toxic positivity where you're like, oh, everything's great and it's perfect and I'm wonderful and my job, I work 18 hours a day, but it's perfect. You can acknowledge what is without going down the negative spiral. So you can say, okay, I'm noticing that I'm feeling really frustrated at the moment. What's that about? Where's the frustration coming from? Is it caused by a person? Is it caused by a situation? Is it caused by a process? Is it what is happening there? And then you use your curiosity. And again, you hit pause, noticing the emotion, labeling the emotion, taking a breath before it takes over and you spiral. Pause. And then use that information and use hope to move you forward. If you're noticing, I'm having a lot of tension with someone lately. For example, I have a client who ghosted me. What happened? Are they mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Did I offend them? Do they want to stop coaching? I don't know, right? But rather than me spiraling, I paused, I noticed, it's been more than a time that I feel comfortable with. And then what did I do? Said, I can create a better future. And I said, let's have a chat. Let's talk about if there's something that needs to be resolved, let's resolve it. If not, and you just like are feeling good, then let's have that closure. But I'm not going to sit back and wonder and worry and be a victim and say, I'm going to wait for them to come. I'm going to do that noticing. And then I'm going to go in because I can influence what's happening around me.
Absolutely. So,
I was just gonna say we have some comments here. Do you want to bring them up?
Okay. I'll bring the comments. Mika, the change based on pleasure is dangerous way how to get back into the comfort zone. No pain, no gain. Okay.
Dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun.
I agree. I agree. But you need to, all visions, they work on combination of pain and pleasure, right? We always, like even if you like visualize that you wanted to win Olympic Games or you wanted to be like big boss, CEO of your company. You are, for example, marketing director, you wanted to move on and be CEO. Okay, so you visualize, hey, I wanted to be the CEO. So it's kind of the pleasure, but then you need to, it's called final like visualization of the final state, but then you need to do process visualization. What does it take to get it there, to be the CEO? Some new experience. If you are a marketeer, maybe you need to spend 3-4 years in sales, right? Maybe in the with the product groups and so on. So that's the combination, right? So Marianne is saying, hi, it's very useful listening to the Star Positive Mindset. Don't give up early. You know it, but only when someone says it, it's out loud that you realize it's true. Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Yeah, I need to add two things here. This like totally makes it feel important. Marianne, because we are humans, whether we like it or not, we are still very attuned to the people around us. If you have people around us who say, no, don't, back, bad, stay safe, stay small, keep where you're going, even if you have sort of a fighter mindset, at some point you'll get stuck in there. You have to surround yourself by people who are constantly pushing you and giving you permission to keep trying, keep going bigger. Someone else is starting their own business. Someone else has traveled to 15 countries that you've wanted to go to. You have to constantly be surrounded by role models who see bigger than you do. And once you grow, by the way, you'll need new role models because you'll outgrow some of them. But you need that because it's what's called social permission. We look without actually saying, I need your permission to keep trying. Your brain is looking for that. Should I keep trying? Should I not keep trying? What makes sense? And if you're with people who are like, yeah, go all in. That's right. You've got to give out, winner's mindset, go for hope. You're going to go show up in a different way. So we have to surround ourselves by people who are pushing us and doing even more in the direction that we want to go to. And then the last thing I want to add to that, Jan, is for me, what's so important. My early career, I studied political science. I worked in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. My congressman that I worked for, if you called one time and you said, could I please request a meeting with that person? Well, unless you were a very big donor, it was like, okay, maybe sometime we'll see if we can arrange it. If you never called back, you were not going to get that meeting. If you called a second time, you'd probably get the same, yeah, okay, yeah, we're working on it. We're still trying, okay? Most people, A, would never call. B, would call once and say, okay, they're working on it. I'll just wait. Maybe a few people would call a second time. The actual winners are the people who call 5 times until they get the meeting that they want. This is winner's mindset. It might feel for some people, oh, I'm being too aggressive. I'm being too pushy. I can't show up. They said they're going to call me. I'm just waiting until they call me. Or they might say no, so I'm scared of the no. When I coach salespeople, I say maybe, and waiting is the absolute worst place to be. You want a yes, you want a no. But if you're not following up, calling constantly, nicely, kindly, in nice, good ways, but if you're not pushing forward on it because you feel nervous or scared about it, you're not living your potential. You're not really seeing the power of what you can create in your future. You're letting your fear run that show for you. So that's what I want to say about that, Marianne. It's so important to surround yourself, to keep going, to be the person who calls 5 times very nicely and doesn't let go until it's a yes or a no. And that's how you'll get that winner's mindset.
I'm always saying every no is a beginning of yes.
Exactly. It's a creative way to find a new solution. You can't get in the front door, you go for the window.
Lisa mentioned before, judgment, like judging yourself, right? So obviously, judgment can be very healthy, but you should not judge yourself during that activity. Okay, if you are, for example, playing, tennis, or if you are presenting, don't judge yourself, because unfortunately, you can judge yourself before the activity or after the activity, not during, right? Because once you start, because for example, Buddhists, they are saying that judging is really very bad, right? If you make judging yourself or the other people, right? But I tell you what it does. If, for example, imagine you are in front of the large customer and it goes very well. Now suddenly there is a question and you don't know exactly the right answer. Okay, and your amygdala start to be, because it's dangerous, so your amygdala is like, hey, so I don't know, and you start to judge yourself like, well, I don't know the answer, probably I really don't know. As you start to judge, what will happen then, your mind will not concentrate on the question, but will concentrate maybe on, oh, he's giving me hard time, that means that we are not gonna to close the deal, right? Maybe, stuff like that. And then once you are, if you start to judge yourself, there's no way you can be 100% concentrated, be here and now. And in that particular case, your brain works like prediction machine. Okay, taking the question and like asking, was I already in that situation? And if you are 100% concentrated, chances are that your brain will bring you similar situation or maybe the same situation, and you will react properly, or you may say, I don't know exactly, but this is how we can do it. You may show to your customer or maybe your boss that you can think like independently, and it will be fine. But once you will start to judge yourself, I should know and I don't know exactly, whatever, right? So very often in tennis, like tennis is like mental chess. Okay, you are playing chess like mentally. That's the tennis, because those players who are able to forget about the last ball, returning back immediately to the current ball, are the winners, right? Once you start to be with the last ball, that means that you start to judge yourself, and that's the end. So it's good to, we always did whatever was negotiation or some project, we always did what we call post-mortem. Once the project was over, we always were talking about what was going well, what we should continue in the other project, what we should stop, what kind of the mistakes we did, and what we should start. That was kind of the conclusion. So it's good to do the judgment after the activity, but if you start to judge yourself like in the activity, that's basically the beginning of end. This is for sure. That's how brain works.
Yes. And I want to add here, the judgment is not about you as a person. This is what throws you off. This is what, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough. No. I didn't make the goal that I wanted to make. Or, if you're in a business setting, I didn't give the presentation that I wanted to give. I wasn't able to answer the question. Not, I'm incompetent in my job, I don't know what I'm talking about, I shouldn't be the person. That's all very personal. Personal judgment, you don't need. What you need is that sort of neutral judgment of what's happening around to get you to the goals that you want to get to. And I think it's really important when there's personal judgment, as in, am I smart enough to close this sale, right? So I run my own consulting company. I have to do a lot of my personal selling for my business and for my team members. And the pressure, I have to earn money, right? I have to sell. I have to get the company growing. That could be a lot of pressure. And if I'm judging, was that the right word to say to make the sale? But then you're, like Jan said, you're so in your head and judging of yourself that you're not actually present with the other person. This is where most people get stuck. They don't know how to be present with the other person because they're so busy judging themselves. Let it go. I completely take all pressure off. Whenever I'm in a selling position, I had a new client today. I didn't go in and say, I have to make a sale. What I said is, I'm going to listen for the next 30 minutes, really understand this person's deeper needs, really connect, and then see if I can help. No pressure to sell, no pressure to close the deal, 100% focus outside of me. Not how am I doing? What am I saying that's right? Get rid of all of that and focus on something outside of you, outside of the ego. And by doing that, you can then get into your flow state. You can get into this great part of your brain that's naturally curious and naturally really smart. And then you show up. And by the way, in the end, obviously the sale goes much better because it's not forced and you're actually listening and the person feels that you've understood them. With everything you do, you got to get out of yourself. It's not about you, right? And find those ways to focus on the other person, the larger goal that you're standing up for. If you're negotiating your salary, I tell people all the time, look, if you're a woman, don't negotiate your salary and be nervous about your worth. Negotiate your salary as though you are a role model for all women and equal pay and trying to get a negotiated salary that's appropriate for women, not you, for women. And when you can step into that, it's not about me. It's about something greater. It's about something bigger. That's when judgment can sort of move aside and you can start to build that brighter future. You can go in with higher hopes and higher readiness.
And there is this old saying, don't take it personally. And I give you one trick, right? What you can do. And what I learned when I was like 30 years old, right? And it helped me a lot in my professional career as a manager. In case you are like, making some success, you have some failures, whatever. But if you are able to admit your own mistakes publicly, which is very, you need to learn it, right? And it is very powerful. Then you will learn fast, and you don't need to think. You basically don't need to think about this, fear of other people opinion, what the other people will say, because you are bringing your own, hey, this is my own mistake. That's number one. So it's great for your like cooling down your amygdala, because suddenly your amygdala would say, hey, we talk about mistakes like a normal thing, so it's probably not dangerous. This is exactly what will happen. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you are in the managerial position, you have some team, or even I used to run big organizations. Once you as a leader on the top of that organization will talk openly about your own mistakes, people will suddenly open. Okay. Yeah. And this is the way you create learning organization, because suddenly people will start to talk about their own mistakes. Okay. And I was always saying, well, if there's some mistake, no finger point. It makes no sense. Okay. We are all in the same team, in the same, business. Let's learn from each other. And this is the way. And a lot of companies are doing sharing best practices. Okay. Jean-Philippe Courtois, who is Microsoft president, he asked me like 15 years ago. I was for a couple of years worldwide czar for the whole like sharing best practices. But I said, let's at one event, it was like a country managers meeting, let's share the worst practices also. Okay. And once people open, it was fantastic. That was it. Like 7 years ago, it was first in the United States, and then it came to Europe. There is a movement called Fuck Up Nights, where you can talk only. It's like 20 minutes like TED Talk, 20 minutes presentation, but only about your fuck ups, what you fucked up, right? It's a very open format. Some companies started to do it, and I think it's absolutely top, because as a matter of the fact, we know from neuroscience that we learn mostly from our mistakes, right? If you create some mistake and you realize, hey, this is it, neuroadrenaline is created, is released in your brain, saying like, you need to remember that, you need to learn from that. And if you like accept those mistakes, mental toughness, it's about accepting your past. Basically, it makes no sense. Past is the past, so you need to learn from the past and move on. A lot of people still think so. They are suffering once the fuck up happen, and every time they start to talk about it. Okay, if you learn from that, you emerge as a hero from that. And this is exactly about the team, about the hope, right? And you can easily move on. And those I like very much. That this is great example of the fuck up nights. And last point, Bill Gates, was always telling me, Jan, if you don't know whether you should do something or not, just do it. You can always ask for forgiveness. And this is the right, leadership talk, if you will, because it's obviously, you need to, if you screwed up something, you need to ask for forgiveness, but the chances are that you will get it, if in case it's like legal and stuff like that. I mean, if you do many things, not all things will be like winners, right? There will be some, things where you learn, and this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. And as we're slowly starting to wrap up today's session, I feel like it's so important that so many people don't know. They think, oh my God, I'm not smart enough. All these other people are so much smarter than I am. These managers are more experienced. The CEO knows so much. It's so intimidating to be around, PhDs and Yale, Harvard graduates, etc. And they internalize, I'm not smart enough. I'm lacking something that these other people have. And I feel like it's like my duty and job to tell you, nobody knows what they're doing. Yes, a lot of people speak very confidently, and a lot of people will tell you this is the right way to go and this is what we have to do. Nobody knows. You can't predict the future. You can't predict how markets are going to be. You can't predict whether, look at Segway. Everybody thought Segway was going to be the greatest, that motorized scooter. Steve Jobs was in as the investor. They were like, oh, the whole industry is going to be completely reshaped. And then nobody liked it. Dead. Consumer interest, not there. The only people who ride around are in the US shopping malls, right? The security. Nobody knows. We can make some predictions, that's fine, but I need you to let go of the idea that there's some really great, brilliant, smart people and you just have to be more like them. No, you have to be the kind of person who shows up. How do I give my best? How do I learn? Okay, that was a fuck up. Perfect. I'll learn from there. And how do I build that brighter future? How do I keep moving forward? That is the essence and the most important part of what hope is all about. As we talked about today, hope is not this passive, I'm just going to sit around and hope things will get better. That's what most people understand about hope, and it is so wrong. Hope is all about recognizing this is hard, but we can do hard things, and we're going to move forward with our hope. Hope is a verb. We're going to take action once we have hope, because we're going to clear out any junk from the past, any emotions we have from the past. We're going to get really present. What do we want? What do we need? What's happening here? What action plan do I need to take? And then we're going to plan for our future, and we're going to know our future can be better, and we're going to use hope to get us there.
Carol Dweck, in her book Mindset, she talks about interesting experiment they did on a couple of schools in the United States. Okay, in the US, if you fail, it's F, you fail, basically. That's like 5, in majority of the European countries, you fail, basically. You didn't pass, okay. Then they started to, rate some kids at some schools differently. Instead of fail, they were saying not yet. And ladies and gentlemen, fail versus not yet is very different signal for your brain. Those kids were much more inspired to really, pass the exam next time with the not yet. Okay. And this is it. This is the difference between fixed mindset, when you are like giving up, when you are like, it's perfectionist, right? I'm, champion or I'm loser. There's nothing in between. And we are like, I'm 61 years old, and I think I'm still work in progress, right? Right? And my wife talked to my mom, and my mom asked, he's now like 61 years old. Does he behave as an adult, person? Me, right? And my wife said, no, he will go from puberty to dementia, right? Anyway. So this is it, because this, the progress, the way, basically, the life is not about one fixed thing. It's about progress. Even like those people who are doing sport, like Federer. Lisa lives in Switzerland. Federer played till 4 years old, right? We have Jagr, Jaromir Jagr, 51 years old ice hockey player. He scored, I think, 2 days ago. He scored again the goal. He's still playing in the national, league. Why? Because they love very much the process, the way. It's about couple of grand slams, whatever. That's fine, right? But first of all, they love the process. That's the reason why they got so many grand slams, because they were having consistent performance because of that emotional connection. And it's the same in your work. If you really like what you do, the chances are that you will do it a lot of years. And I now there are a lot of discussions in many European countries about retirement age. I should get my pension from Germany when I'm like 64 years old. Here, I don't know, but I'm not dependent on that anyway. But I think that pension is artificially created concept for unhappy people, right? Because if you are happy and you do what you like, maybe you will not go like 5 days a week to your job, but still, right? I have some friends, they're like 85 years old and they still coach people, they do speeches. It's about really liking what you do, right? Because I think once people start to be less active, they are getting older and older. It's not that today. It's not about age. It's rather about your mindset again. And if you keep your brain busy, it's also good for your body, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm thinking maybe we need to do a session on how to love what you do. And we can talk about even past retirement, what that could look like.
And guys, don't take me seriously what I said about pension, but think about I tell you, because you need to look at global. The countries which will not have this problem are, for example, India. India is having, it's called demographic dividend. 6 people working on one dependent, whether this is student or elderly people, right? Because in India there was no social system, so at that time, so they have many kids. On the other hand, China is having this problem and will have, because of the policy of one child, which is not anymore in the place. But it's like that. A majority of the European countries, if you want to keep stable population, you need to have 2.1 children per woman. And for example, Czech Republic is having 1.6, which means that we have this issue. And with those reforms, it's very unpopular. That's politicians are postponing. You need to retire, older age. That's discussion now in France, and look what's happening there. So older age, number one. Number two, you need to make some savings because it's your own responsibility, right? Maybe you or your kids, doesn't matter. You need to make some savings during your working life. And number three, you need to increase productivity. And unfortunately, nobody talks about productivity, competitiveness, and stuff like that anymore, right? So we need to increase productivity. Those are levers they have, but unfortunately, they are all very unpopular, and nobody wants to talk about it, right?
We'll have to do a timeout on our show and just do one political episode. I love it. No, but I did
no.
I'm just joking.
This is my past, right? When I was in Microsoft, so I was having
one thing I did love, and then we have to let our friends go. They're past time. Yes. Thank you for sticking with us. Personal accountability. It's the flip side of empowerment, and it's actually quite difficult. Even though we want our freedom, we want our empowerment, we don't want to be micromanaged. We also don't want to be the person who has the finger pointed and blamed when something goes wrong. So personal accountability could be really interesting.
Yeah, I will put that. This is the good conclusion of our discussion. What Marianne put there. 10 years old daughter have several boards in her classroom on the wall with smart sayings. For example, mistake is your friend, and this is it. This is it, because we are punishing kids for the mistakes, right? It's called rating. I think rating is good provided that it's giving some feedback, but it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's much better written feedback, first of all. If it's written feedback, what was going well, what was not going well, where they need to improve. This is about this, growth mindset. Okay. And then obviously the kids, when they are, you know, small kids, the way they learn to walk, it's basically by mistakes. If they would say, oh, you are not able to walk, you already tried 3 times, you lost the chance, so you will crawl only. Come on, you know, right? We are all learning by mistakes.
I love it. Learning
Perfect.
from mistakes
Okay.
and giving effective feedback.
Ladies
We've
and
got lots of
gentlemen.
topics for 2023. Thank you
Good.
all for joining us.
Good night. Good night.
Have a
Thanks
good
very
one.
much. Bye bye. Thank you.